crystal spring formation. Okay, welcome to the War Eagle mine. So the structure over there is the old structure of the War Eagle mine. It was a talc mine. You know, we'll talk about the geology later, but basically those are dolomites there, and they're intruded by these 1.07 billion year old diabase dikes. When you have mafic rocks intrude dolomite, the magnesium from the mafic rocks, you basically end up getting talc. There's a lot of talc mines in this area. You can see some down across the valley there too. We're here though to look at the Pahrump Group and some of the sort of relationships between it and the basement here. So we're just going to start over here by the rock right behind us. And so tell me what kind of rock this is. Come up and take a close look at it. Some of these outcrops up here by the car are some of the best. So what kind of rock does this look like? Okay, so I mean it has a tectonic fabric. I wouldn't call it a myelinite because myelinite implies the grain size has been severely diminished. And here the grains, even in the matrix, are still fairly coarse. So I would not call this a myelinite. It does have a tectonic fabric. It's been foliated. So so let's just start with a basic rock name. Okay, let's start with igneous, sedimentary, metamorphic.
Is it schist rock? Metamorphic.
Metamorphic, okay. So what about by its texture? Is it more than 50% platy minerals or less than 50% platy minerals? Less than 50% platy minerals. So what does that make it? It's a foliated metamorphic rock, less than 50% platy minerals. Gneiss, yes. So this is a gneiss. Okay, so what kind of gneiss is it? What do you think its protolith was? What kind of crystals do you see in it? There's big feldspars, big potassium feldspars in particular. So that's what all these big, like, egg-sized chunks are. So what kind of protolith might have big chunks of feldspar like this in it? Granite, yeah. Are there any specific Proterozoic granites we know that often have big chunks of potassium feldspar in them? What? The what?
That was Murray's.
Okay, yes, the one underneath the Marble Mountains, the 1.4 billion year old anorogenic granites. So this is actually, I don't think this outcrop has been dated, but based off of the presence of so, you know, as we'll get to a little bit, this unit is unconformably overlain by the Pahrump Group, which are I don't know, they're over 1 billion years old, and so this is going to be a over 1 billion year old granite, and we know that there's a very common group of 1.4 billion year old granites that have these large potassium feldspar crystals. So again, I don't think this particular outcrop has ever been dated, but you know, if I had to put money on it, this is probably one of those 1.4 billion year old anorogenic granites. So this is the basement, and in places, I don't remember if there are any outcrops here or not, but in places these granites, which are now orthogneiss. So remember we said that a gneiss that has a igneous protolith we call an orthogneiss. So they don't have an igneous texture anymore. They've been sheared up into this tectonized metamorphic texture. So we really shouldn't call it a granite, and it's now an orthogneiss, but it's derived from the 1.4 billion year old granites, probably. And so this granite intrudes in places older, like, you know, 1.7, 1.8 billion year old stuff, like it does elsewhere in the Mojave, sort of like what we saw at the Ivanpah orogeny stop. I don't remember if we'll see any of that here, but so we're just going to walk down the road here, and then we're going to cut around on the hillside. So So we moved on to finer grain rock, but these are, if you take a look, they're basically still nice. They're just a little more finely grained, not as strongly foliated. You were going up this way. Follow me. Don't just stand there. So first of all these rocks here, are these in place?
These?
Yeah, all these random boulders on the ground here, are these in place rocks?
There, right?
Yeah, so this is all float. These are all rocks that have tumbled down from the cliffs up there. So you know, if we're interested in what's going on in the bedrock, we have to look for little outcrops sticking up out of the canyon floor. So we can see that there are these pieces of limestone stuff from above. We might expect there to be unconformity somewhere. So here we still have some of these gneisses. That might be our last outcrop of gneiss right there. And then here we have a different kind of rock. So, anyone tell me what kind of rock this is? You gotta look at it first. Get your nose on it. Feel it. Touch it. Probably don't lick it. Okay, here limestone. I might be a little more general than that. It's definitely a carbonate rock, as you can tell by this sort of sharp, sort of differential weathering texture, it's sort of being dissolved by the rain. Between the brown color and the, I don't know, a little more fine-grained texture, I would guess this is probably actually a dolomite, and it actually is a dolomite. I didn't bring an acid bottle with me, but so this is really a dolostone, you might call it, because it's a rock made of dolomite. And so this is the Beck Springs Formation. Remember we talked about the Beck Springs Formation was the lowest formation in the Pahrump Group. Now, as for the nature of the contact between the bottom of the Beck Spring and the top of the gneisses, it's not really exposed anywhere where you can really put your finger on it. Okay, so let's look around through the Beck Spring Dolomite. Remember I said that the Beck Spring Dolomite is intruded by these 1.07 billion year old diabase dikes. There's actually one somewhere around here that actually has been dated. There's a part of the age constraint on these things being older than that. So let's see if we can find it. I think it's over that way a little bit. This rock has kind of been metamorphosed a little bit, but See if you can find a fresh piece. I think this is as fresh as we're going to get, but basically it's diabase. Well, I think we'll let the stragglers catch up and turn off this video for a while. Okay, so here we are looking at some of these more cherty facies of the crystal spring formation. No, so, yeah, that's right, the crystal spring formation. Although some of these, so these layers here are chert, or some of them actually seem to be a fine-grained sandstone, but you can also see it's also folded up, which presumably all the other dolstones are also, but it's easier to tell when they have little layers in them. Okay, so here we are at the top of the crystal spring formation. So here, this red stuff is just a super cherty part of it. So if we weren't sure if that stuff earlier was chert, this is definitely chert now. And then on top of it, this is now the Noonday Dolomite. So the Noonday Dolomite is now Neoproterozoic. So crystal spring formation is, I guess at 1.06 it's Mesoproterozoic. And then the Noonday Dolomite is Neoproterozoic. Exact age not really known, but it's generally thought to be. Remember we talked about Snowball Earth? Well, the Noonday Dolomite is thought to be one of those cap carbonates that where there's to the global tropical conditions that came right after the ice caps all melted. So that probably puts it around, 700, 650 million years old, something like that. So what about the nature of this contact? Come look close at it up here. There's some pretty good, you can't quite put your finger on it, but at least you can get pretty close to it. So how do we go about determining what type of contact this is? Sorry, what?
Thermal contact?
Thermal?
Yeah.
What do you mean thermal?
Actually a high temperature.
So I think these are basically sedimentary cherts. If you look at them, they actually have bedding. They have fine lamination in them. So it's not a thermal contact because these are sedimentary rocks. So I think there may have been some fluids that came along, and because it's a more permeable contact, that they're extra altered right here, but I don't think it's fundamentally a thermal contact. Okay, so we've ruled out intrusive contact, so we have two other options. It could be a fault, or it could be, either an unconformity or a conformable contact. Based on? Well, yeah, based on the age difference, you probably guess it probably would be an unconformity. If you actually come and look at the layering in these, they're both dipping steeply to the north. I think that's north.
Yeah.
Well,
that's east, right? So
it's northish. Steeply to the northish. If you look at these, they're steeply north. If you look at actually the lamination inside of the crystal spring formation here, it's also, at least near the contact, is also steeply to the north. So they're not that far off from being unconformable. I think if you map it out in detail, you will find that actually is an unconformity with some angular difference on there. But it's not super out of whack. It's as unconformities go. Okay, so here we were walking along the hillside. We were walking through the Noonday Dolomite. Then we all of a sudden ended up in this foliated stuff. The sudden change in context is just we crossed a fault. If we look at this stuff, it's got clasts in it in a fine-grained matrix. Some of these clasts are as big as this boulder up here. It's about a foot across. It's sort of a mixture of fine-grained and coarse-grained sediment, so this is what we call a diamictite. So this could be deposited either by a glacier or potentially as debris flows. In this case, it's present right next to a fault, which could create the sort of topographic scarp that might be where you might expect to find debris flows. And if we look closely at any of these clasts, there's no sign of any sort of glacial striations on them. So probably the best guess is that this is a debris flow related dimictite. So this is part of the Kingston Peak Formation, which is in age in between the Crystal Spring and then it's overlain over here conformably by the, or unconformably by the Noonday Dolomite. So it's older than that.